Hey guys, Cam here from today's iPhone.com, and the brand new HTC One has been released, the HTC One M8. And you may be wondering why it's appearing on an iPhone blog, but essentially it's because I have a massive respect for HTC's hardware design and I wanted to show it in comparison to the iPhone 5S. Now, as an Android manufacturer, HTC has gone through many changes. It used to use plastic all the time, now it's switched to metal. They're really focusing hard on design, manufacturing quality, building, manufacturing processes, and sort of changing the way we do things a little bit, or what we expect from an Android manufacturer. So I wanted to give this a comparison against the iPhone, which I guess in terms of build quality and design and materials used is the closest thing to it on the market. Now, one thing you'll notice straight away is the size. Obviously the iPhone's got a 4-inch display, it's a Retina resolution, and the HTC One M8 has a 5-inch display, full HD 1080p quality, really high resolution. Obviously the pixel density on the iPhone is about 326 pixels per inch, and on the HTC One we're looking at over 400. So there's a difference there. Whether you can see that with your own eyes is another matter entirely. But I didn't really want to go over specs, I want to go over how this thing looks. Now, if you see on the front, both phones have got quite a generous gap in between the bottom of the display and the bottom edge of the phone. So if I line up the bottom edges of the display, you will see that the HTC One does have a slight extra little bit of width in between the bottom of the display and the bottom edge of the phone, and that's purely because there's a speaker in here facing forwards. It needs that extra space. But if we go over some other differences, like if we look on round the corners, on the edges, we'll see that the HTC does have some small polished chamfered edges running around the outside of the device, and it's all metal. And the same with the iPhone 5S, slightly different shape. It's a lot flatter, less round, but still got this small polished chamfered edge all the way around the display. And if we just take a quick moment to compare the colouring, it's pretty much the same. If we turn it over, for instance, we'll see actually that the HTC One's gunmetal, as they call it, is slightly darker, more grey than the iPhone. And then the finish is different as well. You'll see on the iPhone it's a lot smoother. If we get some light on the HTC, you'll notice that you've got some horizontal hairline brush strokes all the way along. And HTC developed this technique so that they could make a different pattern, something that felt and looked a lot different to what was on the market currently. On the iPhone, you don't have those patterns. It's just all one smooth anodized finish. One of the other key differences, if we look at the design on the back, you'll see obviously like the iPhone 5S, it's kind of split up into 3 portions. You've got this main panel in the middle, and then on the top and the bottom you've got these other panels, but they're metal as well as that, whereas the glass covers the iPhone's top and bottom portions where the metal is in the middle. And it's mostly to do with the cellular reception. If you don't have these gaps in, the antenna does not work. So you see these plastic bands running across the top and the bottom. You need those, otherwise it just would not work. And the same, Apple chose a different route. Instead of having these bands, which it could have used, you have glass panels. But if you look on the side, we do actually have those bands separating on the edge, like we saw with the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S and the iPhone 5. And that's just something they have to do to work with metal. See, on the iPhone we have a lightning connector, and then on the left, if I'm looking at it face down, you've got a speaker, a microphone and a headset jack. On the HTC One M8 you just have a micro USB and a headset jack. Now if we turn it over, we'll look at it from the right hand edge, and you'll notice on the iPhone all we have is a smooth surface and a SIM tray and a tiny hole to put your SIM ejector tool in to eject the SIM tray, and that's it. On the HTC One, if I zoom in slightly so you can see that a little bit better, you'll see that we have a volume rocker, which you can press, obviously turn your volume up and down, and also you have a micro SD card tray. Now if I reach for my SIM ejector tool, this will work. So I reach for my SIM ejector tool, I can eject that, and inside here you'll be able to get a micro SD card. It's a rather nifty solution, since most manufacturers just have an empty slot and then like a rubber flap covering it. It looks good when it's closed, and again you see these bands on the edge similar to the iPhone 5. On the top edge, this is part of the design I think looks really cool, even though it's a use of transparent plastic or translucent plastic. You have the power button here, and it's a really smooth surface, and it goes along the design, kind of matches the curve of the back, the curvature. But what you've got here is a transparent area for the infrared beam, so I can use this as my TV remote. On the iPhone, obviously it's Apple, it's all the same as the rest of the edges on the phone, just a power button and a smooth metal finish. On the right hand edge, now this is the left hand edge. What we have on the iPhone, we have the volume up and down button, the mute switch, again those plastic gaps for the antenna, and a very smooth finish. On the HTC, we have the SIM card tray here, and that's it. Again, a very smooth finish with the same bands on the top and the bottom. I guess one of the big talking points in the design is the use of two cameras on the rear. But what you'll notice that's similar between the two is that they both are the only phones at the moment, I believe, with this two-tone flash. So it's got a dual LED flash. One of the lights is a white light and the other one is a sort of orangey red light, and it balances out so that when you take flash photography of people's faces and skin, it gives you a more natural skin colour. Now if we compare thickness, the actual edges of the phones, you'll see that the HTC is much thinner, but when you place it down on the ground, the actual thickness of the device is slightly higher on the HTC. Now this is 160 grams, but it doesn't feel that heavy. The iPhone, of course, is a lot lighter. It's smaller. It's possibly a tiny bit thinner. But all in all, HTC has done a fantastic job of making, I guess, a design of hardware, of materials and quality, and fit and finish that you would expect from Apple. Whether you like it or not, obviously, is a preference thing, but it is available in more colours, pretty much the same colours as the iPhone. You've got this black and dark grey, whereas Apple's is black and space grey, and you also have a silver and gold version, just like the iPhone. That has been my hardware design comparison. I will have other comparisons up on the site and on this channel in the near future, including a full comparison. I'll also be reviewing it over at timonews.com, so be sure to check that out. If you want to ask any questions, I'm at TIP_cam. I'll see you again soon.